So here I am. I've begun the recording.
Okay.
Welcome to Databases A to Z. And one of the reasons I'm doing this is no matter where you go, Harvard, University of Washington, you will have a list of databases A to Z. This is a consistent throughout most academic libraries. They will have a listing, and this is all it is an academic listing, an academic alphabetic listing of our databases. So what I'm going to go over today, and please stop me, ask questions, reverse me anytime you need to do so. I'd like this to be informal.
Great.
I want to let you know what a database is, because unfortunately during this I'm going to say database so many times it's going to drive us all insane. I apologize in advance. I'm going to talk about the anatomy of a database, because sometimes you have hundreds or literally hundreds, and when it comes to something like the University of Washington, you may have, I think theirs was actually 653 or up to 122. And I want you to understand, no matter where you land, there's going to be these essential parts that are true pretty much no matter where you go. I also want to talk about CRAP and its relationship to research and search. CRAP is a way to evaluate your resources. There's also a way to kind of look at your search, to do peer review. And if you're doing annotations, it's a great framework to work with. I find it's got a lot of utility on so many levels. And I'll talk about what CRAP stands for, and it does have the 2 A's in it. Then I'm going to show you what I consider to be the secret to all the research kingdom. This thing that will keep you from having to go back and forth and be able to do things on a much higher level. I want to talk to you about keywords, truncation, phrase searching, and Boolean logic. When you're really doing research, one of the most wonderful things you can do is use your research to keep researching. Understand, of course, how you can look at multiple forms of a word. Phrase searching, where you can just look for the phrase and not look for it to pop up in all these different pages because you want it all in one place. And Boolean logic, which helps us add things, find things that are synonyms, and also get rid of things we're not really looking for. And then, in a very, very rapid way, I'm going to go over 10 databases. Now, this fast overview is in no way intended for you to know all these 10. What I want you to know is that they're there. I want you to be familiar and kind of get an idea of the anatomy and understand how to look for things when you end up in them. And I want you to start developing a comfort level and perhaps a curiosity. I do know there's a divide between students and librarians. Librarians love searching, students love finding. However, I like to think we can meet in the middle.
Sure.
So first of all, and again, I'll say database 1,000 times, I want you to know you use them every day. These are not mysterious objects. Netflix, Hulu, Pluto, Audible, your Apple Podcast, they're searchable. They contain digital records of different types. Some of them have music in different pieces, documentaries. Some of them have an overlap. Sometimes Netflix and I think your Amazon Prime or Hulu, they might have the same thing, but how you access them, how they may even play on your particular devices, they may be very different. Or what Netflix may have a series one point, and then Hulu's got the series next season. The same thing happens with our resources, which are Gale, mostly ProQuest, EBSCO, and you'll also see Ex Libris, which is how we run our library catalog. I'm not covering the library catalog in this because the library catalog contains the print sources, which are books in the library, the physical library. And it also contains, I hate to tell you, maybe only 20 databases. We have 122. So your ability to go into the databases A to Z is very important, because it's hard to have that everything search. It covers every single thing because they do different things. There's not one special easy button to cover them all. But I will be covering the easiest button for scholarly articles called Google Scholar, and I've set it up for your success. Hopefully you'll be very excited about that, especially if we're going into nursing or STEM or some of the sciences. It's going to be very good for you. Now, database, again, not unlike Hulu, Netflix, you're going to have a search or searches or way to browse. Sometimes it'll be a very generous type of database like Netflix. It goes, oh, if you like this, you will also love this. Some of them you're going to have to dig with. If you've ever used a Pluto app, there's so many free channels and so many free things. It's really hard to get at them. So sometimes you may just not use it just because it's very difficult, or you just really have to be prepared for what you're going to have to go through. It's going to sometimes allow you to do different things. Our databases will allow you to email, download, search for full text keywords. It's going to have some abstracts. Sometimes there's beautiful suggested searches, images, videos, documents, podcasts, audio. Almost all of them to some point are multimedia. The quality of the media, it will vary. So a little bit different. Some of them are newscasts from everywhere. So when we're evaluating resources for currency, accuracy, authority, relevancy, and purpose, we could use this framework for so many things. Currency can be used as part of your search when you're doing your search strategy. Like if your professor says the last 3 years, identify those, you can use them in the search, and I'll show you how to do that. Now, relevancy is going to be driven by your question. A lot of times you may start out with your search very broadly, environment, then you'll start breaking it breaking it down. That may be broken down to something like health, environmental health, and maybe something very specific like air pollution. And those become part of your search. And also how you measure their search results. If it doesn't touch on those things in a way that makes sense for your question, you let that piece go and you continue your search. Accuracy and authority are also things that you look for. When you're looking into the databases, there's going to be different types of formats that have a higher degree of evidence and authority than others. The highest being the scholarly article. And if we want to even look at that, when we look at things like nursing and medicine, we have the evidence-based pyramid when we have the scholarly articles, and they are actually in themselves measured so that the systematic review and the meta-analysis are the most revered. And the case studies are like down here at the little bottom. So we have different ways to view the accuracy and authority of all these pieces. Also, a scholarly article will let you, they will have so much transparency, you could actually call the person who wrote it. Usually you have an email. You could actually probably visit them if you care to do so. I think it would scare them, so please don't. Also, purpose. We have, what is the purpose of this piece? Sometimes in the piece of scholarly writing, it's like we would like to gather these ideas together, like a literature review, and determine whether or not, or where we want to go with this question. Do we want to actually do research, or we just want to show you where these things are and compare them? Also, sometimes they may be something in opposing viewpoints. In this particular database, you're going to get some, if somebody says one thing, there's going to be some articles that are against it, so pro and con. You're going to have different types of viewpoints that are hard, viewpoints that are supported, viewpoints that are emotional. So look at what this particular thing does for you. And I think that was my computer crying there.
I love this crap. I really do. I want to talk to you. I want to listen to what you have to say because I'm already learning stuff. But I think I mentioned, was it last week or whenever we had your meeting in my social problems class? I want them to be able to do this, to search and find what's current, what's accurate, what's relevant, what's not relevant, what's the purpose.
Yeah, because at this point, we can find out so much about the people who wrote the things.
Yeah.
See if they're being wild on Twitter. I mean, one of the really interesting about social media is we get to see the academics and the scientists kind of come to war. Especially right now with so many preprints coming out before the peer review process, especially in terms of COVID, where like something's out every week, but it's been untested and unreviewed. And like, and you just see them kind of almost developing a peer review process. It's really kind of fascinating for me, but I know as consumers of information, it's kind of terrifying. To me, it's like a soap opera of some sort. It's awesome. Terrible.
To publish or not? Should we let this out? When should we let it out?
Let's kill it now. It should never see the light of day. So yeah, it's really interesting. It's like the octagon, the academic octagon. Who knows who's going to make it out alive? So finally, inside information for students. I really want you to understand your rubric. Look for your rubric. When you're putting together your assignment and your research, it should also reflect what your rubric says with your assignment. Sometimes they don't marry up exactly, so really please look at both of them. Now your assignment may say you need a scholarly article, but the rubric sometimes will say you need 2 or something like that. They'll say you need 5 resources, but if you want an A, you might want to use 6. It's going to give you some direct measures about how many different things you need to find, the formats, and how they should appear. Oftentimes too, you'll find how many years. So let's go through like the currency bit. I don't think I really went into in depth because that is important. If you're working in nursing or medicine, you probably want to cover the last 3 years. But if you have a lawyer, you probably would like him to cover all of written time for you. It's a different kind of perspective about how you're going to use the information. If you're doing a historical process or trying to show things over time, the last 3 to 5 years may be interesting, but not useful. If you're writing about COVID, you want to be writing about last week. So currency is contextual.
Yeah.
So finally, before we launch into the very fast pace, which I apologize for in advance, it's going to be fast. I want to talk to you about search tricks. And these are the things sometimes when you have it all together, it falls apart on you a little bit. And oftentimes it's a matter of language and keywords. And sometimes it's as simple as you have the right word, but not the right form of the word. So I kind of want you to kind of look at truncation as one of the things to bring to your research. And when you're building your search strategies and going into a database, if you're looking at something like nurses and you just put nurse, you're missing nurse, nurses, and nursing. And all of those could apply to your topic. And by putting a asterisk at the earliest point where they're all the same, you search all the variations. So you don't have to do 5 searches once you figure out how things went wrong. You can do it at one time. Trauma is a really big one. Trauma, traumatizing, traumatized, all sorts of different variations. Back it up to the most common point before they add the suffixes, and you'll be able to search them all at the same time. And this is going to light up your search so much. Phrase searching is also very important. If you put it in the quotes, and this is even true for Google, by the way, if you put it in quotes, it's going to search the phrase. So you're not going to find global over here and warming at the end. You're going to find them together. And that's going to get rid of your search results because you really don't want 10,000 search results. It would be great just to have 10 excellent ones. And this is a way of paring it down because quantity is not quality. And finally, Boolean searching. And again, this is something using Google, but using some different things, but it's also kind of common, and or not. The and gets to where your 2 words, environmental and health, and your search will bring up where these things overlap. Now the or is how you can use to string together synonyms. I'll be showing you EBSCO database, and I may be able to trick this up so you can see it. But if you have something like global warming and climate change, global warming is kind of a phrase that's moving a little bit back, and climate change is moving forward. And at some point there was, I think the green grasses or another kind of term that was used earlier, and you could actually put all those phrases together and search them at one time. Also something like marketing, advertising, and branding, which may have been very, very different here, which have changed. You might want them all. Marketing or advertising or branding. And to improve all of those, they're in a truncation mark because branding, branded is also a great place to use your truncation. Not is also very valuable. It gets rid of things. In Google, it's a minus word in front, minus in front of the word itself. I, as a searcher, hate seeing Pinterest show up in my search results. Almost all my searches in Google will be minus Pinterest, and I get rid of them. In the databases, mostly you'll use not. So if you have something, it's bringing a bunch of things up. Sometimes it seems like one university just goes on the publishing craze about certain things. You can get rid of that university, get rid of that state, get rid of that city, get rid of that country. One of the ways I like to illustrate it, being from Florida, if I'm to do a Florida plant search, looking in my mind, plants, gardening, whatnot, I would have to use not to get rid of the nuclear plants.
Oh.
It's very clever because sometimes you're like, how did this happen? And this is a great way to go. It gets rid of things. And because at a certain point, You're going to be starting your search pretty broad and winnowing it down. And these are the processes that help you tune it up right. As I'm doing my research, I'm actually writing down keywords and ideas and other things. So I can keep throwing them at different things.
Are you saying this is kind of a process then? You could start with truncation, and then you could move to phrasing, and then you could move to winnowing it out?
It actually is. Like if you see my notes, sometimes I have them up. I should have them up today. I'll start with the words, and then I see if it's the same word, and I start truncating them out. And if I see that they're similar, I'll start putting them under or section. So it does have a precise process for it. And when you're working on a paper, I'd say over 5 pages, or you're heading towards that dissertation, that kind of process is really going to be very rewarding for you.
Yeah.
That and using systematic reviews and literature reviews, but between the two, you're going to be pretty solid in what you pull up. So what the 10 databases I'm going to go through today will be, hopefully, and I'm going to write these down because I did not do so, ProQuest and Academic Search Complete. Now these are 2 very general databases. So if you have almost any topic from astronomy to zoology, these 2 top ones are going to do it for you immediately. But there's something sweet we can do with Academic Search Complete that I will show you. Some other things you may not think of in terms of databases, because they have all sorts of things in them. Some of them have tables, some have information, some of them have key ratios and financial reports, statistics, and whatnot. I'm going to show you some specialized ones that do different things. We actually have databases that will help you with college success, including math, English as a second language, and other computer skills that you may need. We have Culturegrams, which is about different groups across America. Our ebooks were awesome, but our ebooks are now super fantastic. We've added 2 collections into them, and they are awesome. And they're really great because they're 24/7 and they're searchable. A book itself, you can use the index, but an ebook, you can search every single piece of work in there, which is extremely valuable when you're doing research. We're also going to look at global issues, Newsbank, and I'm going to show you the magic of Newsbank, I hope. Statistical abstracts, which is US based, and a new one, health resource nursing. Anyway, do you guys have any questions before I launch into my big, I guess, gallop across these databases? Any questions?
Oh, these look great. Is the ebook, just as an aside, being a student, can I search ebooks and then download it to my OneTouch here, and I could read it from home? Is that how that works?
You can do that. They're device agnostic. It has 2 options. And I'll show that to you because that's where some students get into they have the most questions, and we're not available at midnight to help them sometimes. So you can actually do everything with a PDF. It's device agnostic. You can have a very old computer or phone and still be able to read these items. But you also can check it out and download it because EBSCO is very generous with us, and we can have multiple users. And even if you do that, you won't take that away from anybody else. So
cool.
I think it's really awesome and unique. So do you see bigbend.edu on your screen now? Awesome. I just want to make sure you know how to get to the library. Academics library is the way to go. And we're looking specifically, you'll see here, I hope I don't have my analytics on good. If my analytics were on, you would see this is like one of our most used links on a page. I'm going to go right here into databases A to Z. And I apologize right now. I'm in the middle of a housekeeping project with them. And on the right-hand side, you'll see all of the new databases that we just added. And
oh my gosh.
On those. It's huge. And I'm putting them there as an example right now, but I'm going to curate them a little bit better in the next few weeks. I just really want people to see what we've just added. Now, the databases A to Z, one of the biggest mistakes I see people make is they come here where it says database title search and they put in the word or the subject they're searching for. It's just not that sophisticated. There's 132 and we just don't have one search that searches everything. It's because how they're set up. It's just going to be a very difficult thing, even years down the road before something like that happens. But we have
so
things.
You can't do like a meta analysis of all, I don't know, what'd you say, 200 databases? There's not a thing
No.
up there.
There's not, but there is something that's close,
Mm-hmm.
and I have set it up for our maximum success, and I think it's really sweet that I brought it into BBCC, so I hope you guys will use it. And if you're in the nursing or STEM, you're going to love this, or faculty specifically, because now you realize getting to full text is not going to be the drama that it once was for you. It's going to be beautiful. You can find databases by subject, and I am cleaning those up, but if you go to environment, it's going to list 10, and it's going to give you the best bets.
Mm-hmm.
And you clear the filters. That's the only weird thing. The format probably is not important. Vendors, probably not important, but this, again, you can search the title, and I've gone in and I've built some really very specific pieces in there, but it's just not going to be extremely granular. It's going to be kind of like, you could put in climate and find some things, so let's do that. But it's not going to be as big as, say, environment was. But I've tried to catch, like sometimes, like when I see a failed keyword search, like Harlem Renaissance, I will put it up here to direct you to the African American database that we have and things of that nature you may not normally think of. So I try to put those in there as well. So these are A to Z database. It's going to be alphabetic, A to Z. It's not really a mysterious term. And again, you'll see it in any library, academic library in America, probably around the world. It's just how we keep things together. So if I'm going to be looking at Academic Search Premier, I'll go here. Apologies at first, probably the first database we have is not the most awesome one. And alphabetically, sometimes users will go to the top. If you must go to the top, please go to the second top.
Second top.
The second top.
All right.
And when you're off campus, you will need to sign in, and you do not use the @BigBend.edu. We do put a reminder down here. And your login should be seamless, but for some cases, the EBSCO databases may have a security screen. Select Proceed to the database, and that should clear up once you use them a few times. I put an educational something. Oh, educational. As you can see, when I start typing, this database starts filling things in. If you see right here what it did, it actually kind of helps you understand the Boolean statement in terms of or. Education, or school, or learning, or teaching, or classroom, or education system. Keep those, start writing those words together and kind of understand you might be able to use them in searches in other places. So this is an excellent things that it does. So I go in usually in a big broad search, and then I start winnowing it down based on what I'm working on. And I'll use this over here. If I've looked at my assignment, first of all, I know I need full text. I need what you see is what you get. And if I need a scholarly or peer-reviewed piece, I will select this. And then if my professor said, you can only use things from the past 3 years, I will change this to fit whatever they say, the past 5 years. Or just leave it like it is. This goes back to 1916. For some people, that's going to have value. So remember what I said was the insider tip. Use your rubric and assignment to set up your search so that you get your maximum points. Now, I'm not going to go into this in depth. I'll be teaching the class next week. I'd love for you to come and talk about scholarly articles. But what I need you to understand here is the very best any database can do is select a scholarly or peer-reviewed journal. And if you've used databases, you probably never actually saw that little piece. It can't tell you the article is scholarly. You actually have to look at it. The scholarly journal can have letters to the editor. In a medical journal, they could be 30 pages long with references and multiple authors. It has to have the pieces. And those are going to vary per your assignment. Some professors will want you to look for different types of research, quantitative, qualitative. They want you to see the method. Some people will be okay with a literature review and other types. So just understand what you're looking for. And if none of that made sense, come see me next week or talk to me in person. We'll be glad to set that up. So when I'm here, I start pulling in these subjects. Any of these may also help me with my research. I will copy and paste it and put it up here, and I'll also keep a keyword list. Now, if this wasn't enough for me, EBSCO lets me do the following. See up here where it says choose databases?
Mm-hmm.
This is my opportunity as a researcher to create my own database. I may be working on nursing, but I may be doing community health and doing some other issues. So I could actually bring in the ebooks if I wasn't specifically looking for articles or scholarly articles, and I could search all the ebooks. I could come down and see, oh, this is medication, health resource. I can come to all of these where I have health source, alternate health watch, biomedical reference collection, and I can bind these all into one super database.
Wow.
Instead of popping in and out of a list of 120, I can build a list of mega databases for my own use. I'm not sure this topic's going to work in them, but it may, because there's a lot of teaching information in these as well. And that's going to increase all the things I'm looking at. It's going to bring videos from the other pieces, and it's going to really enhance my search. It's going to give me more keywords and subjects and more things to work through and with. And one of the beautiful things it does, Academic Search Premier is a general search, and it brings in all these ideas, but what it really does is it takes your search and looks at it in a cross-disciplinary way. And you may be looking at something through the social sciences or psychology. What if you bring in a business database and look at it and how people attach money or profit or other different ideas around it as well? So it gives you like a really rich 360 to do the whole thing. So, do you have any questions about that one?
No, that's really cool. I just had a little flash. Eric is still a thing?
Yes, we have Eric. We do, and we have a ProQuest education one too. Oh, and we got a professional, see if I could pop down here. We have a professional development collection. And strangely, we have our vocations and career collection, which is under V, of course, also has a lot of teaching ideas, especially on educational technology and pedagogy, and also careers when students are working on career speeches and things like that.
So I could go in here and I could fine tune this to include only the databases I want to go through. And yes. It's a shuffling process. And so when I came in and did my own private searches, then I'd know I'm not searching the whole internet, but I'm searching just the part that's going to have stuff that I might be interested in.
Exactly.
Awesome. Wow.
Yeah. And that's when you go through EBSCO. And part of my housekeeping is I'm adding tips. So you'll know this is EBSCO. The EBSCO databases here and the new ones here will be the ones where you could do that all in one search and build your own database.
Cool.
So the next mega one I'm going to go to, which is actually far richer than I used to believe it. It was never my favorite. I have a bias, as anybody does when one.
Oh no, a bias.
I have a bias. I like EBSCO over ProQuest. But you know what? ProQuest is actually quite obsolete. And I would say that it's actually the Netflix of our databases. Even though it's not real flashy, it does something that not all the other ones do. So I'm going to put in educational technology. We have games, we have everything. I'm just going to pick this. And as usual, I just go right into the big search and kind of look around before I make other decisions. This is going to let you look at, it's going to put these up for you. And you can look at newspapers, wire feeds, and those are going to be some of your most recent materials. So if you're working on COVID, the newspaper and wire feeds may be more important. But if you're working with a standard idea like pedagogy over time or something like that, these will be good. It also has trade journals, which will be things that tell you how to do things on a practical level, like fabrication today or agriculture, like how you deal with things or new things coming in. So those are also very important. If you need peer reviewed or full text, make sure you select it here. If you do that and you don't have a lot of information, it just means it's a really short article. Like if you look at this is just a page, 77. So when you go through your results, look for the beginning and ending page numbers to kind of understand how long it is. Your search results do a lot of things for you. You'll see this one doesn't give you the keywords, but if you go into this, we'll look at this one down here, it will show you some keywords to the right. search with these indexing terms. It'll give you different words to use. But what this does, which I believe makes it more Netflixy, is it gives you related items. And it also links some of the references inside of the database. So when you find a great article, you will find others as well.
Others. Wow, that's very cool.
So it is wonderful, and it does have all the important buttons as EBSCO did. I apologize if I skipped that, like the citation button, email and print. Most of our databases do have all these. They're kind of standard at this point in everything, as I mentioned in the slideshow. So, and this is a part where it's going to get a little fast because those are really important. If you go in and use Academic Search Premier and ProQuest, you're going to have a lot of information over astronomy, zoology that you can use. But sometimes you need things that are a lot more specific. So, sorry, I have a little cough. I'm going to take you into Business Insights Global. Now, this would be good if you're in economics, if you're taking accounting, or if you're in business courses. And when you see this, click on Advanced, Proceed. It's just your firewall saying, never been here, this is unfamiliar. And we run things through a proxy system, so it kind of pops it up on a lot of things. This is an unusual database in that it talks about industries. You can find key ratios, accounting. You can compare industries if you're trying to do some sort of paper where you're setting up your own business and you need to look for competitive information. This is one of the places you'll go. It has the financial reports. And one of the things I love more than anything in this world, because I do have a sort of a marketing background underneath everything, is the strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats reports on industries and companies, which was not just rich in a business, economic, or accounting way. If you're doing some sort of paper or speech on businesses, that might be the type of information that you want to start looking at, or understanding a framework for viewing business as successful or what is competition in certain areas. So
cool.
The next thing I want to make sure I show you is college success. Now, this is a database. You're going to have to sign in and create your own relationship with the database, have your own sign in. And so I'm not going to be able to show you everything, but I want you to see that it has test tutorials and ebooks. This is going to talk about social media, which is not as important as some others, personal success skills, managing debt and finances, and I'm trying to figure out where our computer one is, or the classroom success skills, online classes, reading strategies, note-taking, memorization, and we also have things like math, which may be listed separately. So if you go under this and go to test prep, you'll see core math and science skills as well. So career prep is kind of unusual. It's not going to be, it's still going to have some ebooks and other things, but it's also going to have practice tests for you to take. Culturegrams is going to be almost like a visual search.
Oh, cool. I've heard of this, but I never spent much time with it.
It's it's very easy to use. It is not as detailed as eHref at all. It's not at that level. You can find the end to this. We'll go to it. But if it's something simple and you're doing a presentation, you need to find some flags and compare some religion on a pretty narrow level, this is good enough. And while it does have its search, it pretty much takes you through the search. So like, oh, I need the United States. It also has the world and provinces. And then if you're looking for Florida, it's going to bring you to Florida and provide you with pretty much all the things you need all in one little tight compartment. Very colorful, very easy to use. And that would be good for those basic things where you're talking about states on that kind of level. Ebooks is one of our probably our number 3 database. You'll see ebook, academic, and community college will show up at some point when I fix that. But they're actually all in ebooks. And as you ask, because this is a big situation when somebody has not used them, or they come in through the library catalog, because you can also search these through the library catalog. I'll just go to environmental impact. On the most part, these are full text, but select it just in case. Yeah, I didn't even change the number. What I'd like you to know about this in this quick romp through these 10 databases is you have 2 things that you can do here. 3 here, actually. These top 2 will work on anything. Your computers, your old devices is device agnostic. And this will too, but it's going to require you, again, to sign in, much like College Success, create your own sign in for these types of things. And you'll be able to download it, and it'll check it out to you electronically, and it'll disappear in a set period of days. Now, if you end up having this as an e-textbook, or you need to make copies, oftentimes it's not going to let you copy everything, but it may be like 60 pages at a time. And so you could like change browsers and print them every few days if you need to do that. But sometimes you really only need 65 pages. What I like about this is the search within part. And this is just in the PDF. You could be working on this on your phone.
Well, this is within the PDF, you can do a search.
Yeah, we're searching the entire book.
Cool.
Which is fantastic. So I'm going to search for solar, which I think should include in here. And it gives you just enough, a little bit of context to know if that's what you're looking for. So suppose it was page 10, solar energy into electrical energy is one of 2 ways of using photo something another. And it takes you into the page where that thing is mentioned, which is going to save you a lot of time, especially if you're a person who has difficulties reading ebooks. At least you can use it to get to the sections that you can consume a little bit better. And so that's one of the major things to remember about the ebooks. The next thing I want to show you is global insights. If you used opposing viewpoints, and so many people have at this point, it's a very similar structure. It's the same publisher. So it's going to be, I don't know, Hulu-ish. It's bright, it's colorful, and the way that you look at it, it's kind of sideways and over and all that, and it does really try to help you. It gives you like the top pieces and the slider up front. At the bottom, it gives you issues. You can see by the updated, these are the things that are up to date. And I bet I know why this obesity was updated. Because that's really in the news right now.
Yeah, that is.
And
that's funny.
This is blank. I don't know why. I don't know if someone's covering it. Oh, here it is. Browse all 666 issues, which is kind of funny right there. But if you're a person who doesn't know what to write about, this is the best place to come. The In Context series. Global issues is, business, homelessness, but it just takes it on a global level, so you can make some sort of comparisons or see how the other folks live, and also understand how one person or group may handle something versus how we do. So it's got a lot of richness in it. It is primarily full text. It's set up for your maximum success. When you go into a topic, I like to call this the Wikipedia for smart people, because it is a Wikipedia overview reference, so you can get a whole big overview of something, but it's been vetted and peer-reviewed and edited. So it's going to look more glamorous in your references or your bibliography. It's going to have featured content. Sometimes that's more emotional content. The academic journals will be the scientific method towards a project. Viewpoints will vary. Sometimes there's just a secondary source where it collects all these primary sources and comes up with what these things mean, maybe do a little interviews and things like that. But it also has reference, which is the overviews, videos, audio, newspapers and magazines all together, and websites. It picks the best websites. So you'll know if you see the website in here, it's vetted. So this is a beautiful thing. So this is great if your comfort level with research hasn't grown yet. It gives you a very select pool. It's primarily full text. And if you match your assignment and rubric, you can go through and go, I need a video, an academic article, something that's primary and secondary resources, and it has them all together in one place. So you don't have to look out for them in many areas.
Very cool.
It is beautiful. And it's got lots of images that you can use in your projects ethically, which is always a good piece as well. I'm going to go to Newsbank. I'm going to have a particular fondness for it. Newsbank is going to be the newspapers. And I'm glad this is coming up because I want to model how to go past it. Proceed to InfoBank. This is an extremely expensive database, and I'm thankful the state of Washington has underwritten it for our use.
Oh, wow, that is awesome.
It is, and it is. And one of the great things about this is you can, and it does have suggested topics, and this is a newspaper database. So, Google is a huge search, but this is a monstrous search. You can
So
also go,
this is just for newspapers?
just newspapers.
Just newspapers.
So
Wow.
if you did the global issues, it would have a few newspapers like New York Times, Washington Post, maybe LA Times, but this is going to have just a huge swath of newspapers that still exist. But one of the greatest values I found, I was working with a student on fracking, and people in California may have one position on fracking, but if you go to a newspaper, say in Virginia or some other areas, their position on fracking might be, this allowed my children to go to college. I did not lose my home. So sometimes when you go to this level, you can actually do some types of comparison, like through the letter. You can actually just look for opinions, letters to the editor, and things of that nature. And it shows you, it is actually kind of, I do kind of love it. Let me go more search options. I want to go to more search options because there's something that's true about newspapers that's not true about all types of writing. Newspapers are written in a way that can be edited, so that if an editor goes through and takes off the end parts after the first paragraph, you can still get the story in the first paragraph, and that's called a lead paragraph. So when you're working with something, there's a full text search that has, well, as you can see, also an international point of view. If you look at it and you just want this particular topic, it's going to pull out some of the things that aren't, where they're just random. They're going to be stronger articles for you if the term or subject or idea appears in that lead paragraph. And this is not too bad. It is international, and you can change the dates on this as well to search older and new things. It does have an archival type value, so you could search in another century if you care to do so. And if you're looking at the CRAP test and currency is your issue, Newsbank is your database. And that's probably the first place you should go, is Newsbank if you're working on a current issue. So I'm going to pop out of there and go to the statistical abstract. And this is specific to the United States, but you could go to the United Nations to find some global information. But this, you'll see, does not appear to look like any of the other previous pieces.
I remember statistical abstracts as like many, many, many books on many, many, many shelves.
Yes, like for every year. I think Tim's throwing some of those away. Tim, the director of the library, is throwing some of those away. It's hurting them all over, I have to say. But yes, it's very painful. But this is not just about demographics, about living, dying families and things like that. This is also about buying, creating, succeeding. It's like any government type thing that may be pulled together. Like you could determine how many people have pets to some degree. It's always going to be anchored around different census periods, so there's sometimes going to be a lag. But this will talk about households using electronics, so you might be able to determine how many people have this. And if you're doing a business plan, this type of information is very helpful. If you're in a speech or communications class and you need to make a point using primary resources, this is very rich. And further, if it's a little old, it tells you where it came from, like the Bureau of Census or Bureau of Statistics of this, that, or the other thing, or Federal Communications. You can go there and look it up and try to find other things or something that may be more up to date. So this is a great place for statistics from the United States specifically. And we're going to wind out with a health center academic, no, health source, nursing, and academic addition. This is an EBSCO database, again, one where you could choose and change the databases. But this one is going to be very specific to nurses and have it come from nursing periodicals and journals. So I'm just going to put in kidney because that's easy to spell here at the database. And again, I go in big, but you do have different options here, including sometimes age groups. Searching for something about teenagers or kids is very difficult because different journals and magazines treat it in different ways. That's one of the great places to write down your keywords, because you don't know if it's youth, teenagers, teens, or if it has a actual date, like 12 to 18. And when you're doing your research, you'll actually need to use all of them to find most things. So generally speaking, when you're in the nursing department, you're going to be looking for full text. You're going to have a preference for a PDF full text. The reason for that is the PDF is an image of the actual journal. If you're in nursing or medicine, you want to see the work. You want to see the images. You want to see the catheter, whatever's going on with the surgery. You want to see all those pieces. You'll want to use scholarly or peer-reviewed journals, absolutely. And unless your professor tells you otherwise, you will need to use the last 3 to 5 years. In some cases, this is going to be very difficult because the most current year is usually embargoed, is what they call it. It's blacked out. We can't get to it. We'll have to request it, which will probably take us 2 weeks or less. But if you need that, let us know. So sometimes I may have to go out to your professor and say, hey, this particular topic's difficult because the embargo cuts off all the good work. And I'm glad to do that when you have troubles with your research. But again, it's like the others. We'll look at it. This has a PDF full text. And when we're trying to find out if something's scholarly or not, we go to this to look for the pieces of the academic article, the multiple authors, the title that's in professional language. Here the authors are. We could actually write them letters, call them, or walk up to the door. Again, don't do that. It's going to give us keywords. It's going to tell us about the study. It's going to say why they did the study, case study scenario. It's going to say who they included or excluded, which is very important because this brings in your critical thinking. You need to think about these articles because sometimes what a scientist leaves out is very important as what they include. If you have difficulties with these, your first few years of reading them, come down to the conclusion and read it backwards. And I'm going to end this with a warning. The abstract is not the article. At some point, you'll start noticing how the abstract hardly ever matches the article, but you may not know that in your initial years of reading them. Sometimes the abstract is provided to get into the publication to get reviewed. The review process, which sometimes can take years, changes the article, so it may no longer match the abstract. So make sure you might read it, but make sure you actually read the conclusion, because that's what you really need to know. And then go back through using your critical thinking, because even as a beginner, you will be able to pick out some fundamental errors in different pieces, which is actually quite thrilling, or that might be a librarian thing about thrilling. So do you have any questions?
So many. Well, one is, Ron, since it's just you and me, I'm thinking of crap, and I mentioned before, I'm really